Hello, everyone. This is Marita, one who catches lightning, with the Path of Ish podcast, Walking with Our Shadow, where we share ancient indigenous teachings of remembrance, all so we can walk and learn how to walk a path of radical self-love. So, welcome to another opportunity to be in this circle of community. And today we're changing it up a bit and inviting someone into this circle. But before we do that, let's just welcome these directions that hold us and who nurture us, who ground us, who define the space. And as we do so, define your space. Take your time to adjust, to ground into your circle. And so we call and thank the East, call and thank the South, call and thank the West, call and thank the North. And as we round the circle back to the East, we ask this circle to be held for good conversation, for curiosity, courage, and play. And with that, we open up the circle and invite our guest today, Vesna. How do you say your last name? I can't say it, so we're just gonna.
Vavladelis.
Vavladelis. Vesna Vavladelis. Okay, Vesna. So the only scripted, one might say, question that I ask is, tell us your creation story.
It's a long one.
Well, let's shorten it.
Okay, so my name is Vesna, and I was born in Melbourne, on the lands of the Bunurong people. My father is from Bosnia, and my mother was born in England, in Leicester. But her parents were from the Dalmatian, what is known as the Dalmatian coast. And I'm Serbian. I have Serbian heritage. And what else?
Okay. That's a good part. I thought it was supposed to be a long one.
Well, I shortened it for you.
Oh,
so
there you go. So, Vesna, you are many things, a true alchemist with sound, with spirit, and a dreamer. And I kind of want to get into this conversation of dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
When did you become aware that you were a dreamer? And let's also define dreamer for these people. So in your own definition, what is a dreamer?
That's a really good question. Well, I think a dreamer could be many, many things. Like, obviously, I think maybe most people think that being a dreamer is you go to sleep and you have these, like, really awesome dreams and you go on these, like, journeys. But I don't think it's just that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're dreaming all the time, and it's part of how we create, really. Whether it's something that we dream of that we'd like to do or be, or of what we'd like to see. Yeah, I feel like that's how I would define a dreamer.
So, as a dreamer, do you see your dream space as where you do a lot of your work, a lot of your spiritual or your prophetic or your oracle? Because you're an oracle, right? You are an oracle.
Yeah.
And so let's just add that to kind of the circle and what it's like to be an oracular dreamer, right? Which is what we're really kind of talking about.
Yeah.
So let's just define it a little bit more. Do you have a process? Do you dream for people? You know, have you? And if you shouldn't, you should be doing that. Well, you do dream for people. You actually do. But, you know, how does being an oracle who dreams, how is it different from, let's see, let's make it really basic, from like people who do tarot or things like that? What's the process like? What's the difference like? What's the experience like?
The experience of dreaming. I sort of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. Because, it sounds really amazing to be an oracular dreamer. Like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like,
Shazam!
What witchcraft is this? But it's very physical. It's a lot of work. Like, I'm finding that I really need to take the time to nurture myself and my body to make it a vessel so that I can dream. And that's becoming really apparent to me as I explore the dream world more. I do dream for people, but I'm not always choosing who I'm dreaming for. It's not always a choice. And I guess, I'm still figuring out what my process is. And it's always changing. But I guess one of the things that has really helped me to access that state has been Yoga Nidra, and has really opened up that dream world for me and allowed me to access it a bit more.
Okay, so let's break down Yoga Nidra, and let's really kind of talk about like how you are entering into this, what I like to say, conversation, because everything is a conversation, everything is a relationship. And I know you had a very successful ceremony a few days ago, and just wanted to present how your process is and how you're really kind of, decolonizing, Yoga Nidra as you decolonize yourself. And what are you bringing to what everyone thinks is Yoga Nidra, right? This process. What are you adding to it? How are you adding I would even say, a greater dream state to it?
There are many perspectives on Yoga Nidra, and essentially from what I have gathered is that Yoga Nidra is the state between waking and sleep.
So lucid dreaming.
So lucid dreaming, yeah. And it's a way it's a state where we can access parts of ourselves that are in the deeper recesses that may not be in the forefront of our consciousness.
And in that state, why are people trying to get into this lucid dreaming state? What's the draw? Why are people coming to your events?
Because they want to rest.
They want to rest. Okay.
And, they say, actually, I've read somewhere that they say, I think it's 20 or 30 minutes of a yoga nidra practice is equivalent to 2 hours of cellular sleep.
I think I need some yoga nidra now.
And, you know, a lot of us are either we don't sleep, we might have insomnia or struggling to rest. And I guess our society is not one that supports rest.
Mm-hmm.
And so often people are coming for that support and that opportunity to have a rest. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it's beautiful. That's exactly why people show up with, you know, their, what's the thing that you guys wear? That's supposed to be that onesie that's a warmer thing. What's that thing called?
Oh, an udi.
An udi. New terminology for me. An udi. So let's get back to this kind of conversation of how, you know, you've been sitting in Indigenous spaces, you know, First Nation people spaces for quite some time. You come from a very interesting background. You have science, hard science in your background. You've done, you know, yoga nidra training. You've done, I mean, so many trainings I probably can't, you know, name on one hand, right? Count them on one hand. And now you're kind of sitting in Indigenous spaces. So with your journey through, you know, being truly someone who has, you know, curiosity, right? You were a curious being.
Yeah,
right?
very.
You know, very curious. How are you finding this weaving of, you know, all the trainings that you have had, like sound, healing, and please, you know, you can tell us all the amount of training you have as a way to just kind of understand how a dreamer weaves together a practice.
Yeah. Yes. So I have done many trainings. Meditation, yoga nidra, somatic based trauma yoga, meta music, and yeah, then I'm here with you as a student.
Yep.
And I guess for a long time throughout the trainings, I've been looking for something that I haven't been able to find in a non-Indigenous space. With yoga nidra, I feel like a lot of people know it as being a script and there being specific language. But what I've always felt with some of the language that's used, it hasn't felt in alignment with, and I don't want to say what we're trying to achieve because it's not about achieving anything. But I guess in what state we're trying to access and be in.
Let's talk about it in terms of resonance, because you come from sound, so it might be easier to kind of like the way, and please correct me if I'm wrong, from what I'm understanding, what you're saying is this journey that you have had as a dreamer, as a scientist, as a curious being, right? As an intellect, as a poet, as all the things that you are, right? An amazing cook as well, right? An amazing mother, right? Just all these things, right? That in this state of arriving to a place to hold a ceremony, right? Mm-hmm. That you have found, maybe one might say, the training that is non-Indigenous doesn't have the resonance needed, the vibration, to use New Age terms, needed to really hold a deep space for lucid dreaming and a state of consciousness where you're not striving.
Yeah.
right? Where you're not reading a script,
Yeah.
where there's something really where you're with all of your potential beingness.
Yeah.
Right. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
On it.
On it. Good, I'm understanding. So tell us how you have found, right, or how you're now discovering how to combine these words, because I find it really curious, you're in Australia, you're in Aboriginal land. Talk about some amazing dreamers, right? Like the country itself, the land itself is kind of a dream state and
Yeah.
has that, you could say, portal to beingness. And I don't want to say reality because I want to say beingness,
Yeah.
right? Because people then think, oh, but this is real reality. No, it's a state of beingness.
Yeah.
So here you are being held by this amazing land that in and of itself knows how to connect to that state of consciousness of lucid dreaming. So as you're bringing in training, right, that is indigenous, how is that helping? How are you finding in your own way with the permissions, because you've asked permission, to kind of bring these two worlds together?
It's all about relationship, really. Which is what I find is the missing piece of a lot of what we know in the mainstream as Yoga Nidra.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I guess I'm weaving together is, or are the relationships that I have spent time with to really hold that beingness.
So let's talk about these relationships. We use it in our circles a lot, but a lot of people are like, what are you talking about?
What the hell is that?
What is that? You mean, Susie or Chuck or something, So what are we talking about? What it's like to build relationships, right? We've talked in this podcast how in many indigenous spaces, if you boil it down to something simple, which is never really possible, that it really comes down to relationship, right? And to be a good relation. And we're not just talking human. So in your own journey with that word and building, right, what does that mean for you? And how does that then, again, in and of its nature, just decolonize? Just to build relationship is to decolonize.
Yeah.
And people don't recognize that it can be as simple as that. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Relationship for me is really taking the time to be and to sit and to not be taking from or wanting to get something out of it. It's really just to have an opportunity to sit and listen to another being. And when I say being, it's not just a human. And to know that, I do not have more wisdom or knowledge than the rock that I'm sitting with or a tree, because I don't. They've been around a lot longer than I have. And so really allowing that opportunity to listen and sit with them and show my respect and my gratitude, because really they give us life. And they tell us stories. And we can learn so much from them. I forgot what the original.
No. This is perfect, because I'd love to at this point really kind of I'm digging in. I'm digging in today. I love the digging that we're doing because to dig is to create that relationship, right? And so I want to say, okay, so you're talking about building a relationship with a rock or a tree. What does that really mean, right, for people who have been taught in these indigenous circles? Like, does that mean to meditate? Let's play with these words, right? Because I feel like when people say that, right, and then the mainstream hears them, they say, "Oh yeah, I can meditate with a rock," right? But that process is so different from the process that we teach in indigenous circles. And so I'd love your help deconstructing that, because you came from those very, mainstream kind of new age places, and now you're really sitting in a place that you feel connected to. So
the words that come to mind are reciprocity.
Yeah.
And permission and asking for permission. Yeah, because, it's funny when you say, like, oh, do I meditate with a rock? Does the rock want to meditate with you?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you asked? And so, yeah, and it's like, does the rock want to do that? Does the rock want to meditate? Or would it just actually like to be left where it is? Or
does it even speak your same language?
Or does it speak the same language? Maybe it doesn't, and maybe it doesn't want to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had that before. Or maybe it would just like you to sing a song. And I don't, when I go out in nature, it's not necessarily to find something specific. Usually I hear them saying something. Being like, hey, let's come and have a conversation. And then from that, those conversations are what I take away, because it's that experience of being present. And so, if I'm at work and I'm a nuclear medicine technologist and things get pretty crazy sometimes at work, and I feel like anxiety rising or something like that, I can go back to those moments and those conversations because I remember them. So I might remember a specific rock, or I might remember the leaves that are fluttering in the wind, and having those images come to mind instead of getting stuck in a spiral.
Now, you're talking about talking to rocks and leaves. It sounds crazy, right? But, we do this all the time. But I want to, bring something into the circle that I think is important, because I think it ties back to dreaming, right? And it's not just images, right? People always think that magic, right, or spiritual is this thing to achieve. And you said that, right? And here we're talking about reciprocity. And it's like this thing like that's, I don't know, you only
outside of yourself.
Outside of yourself, right? And you only see it in like superhero movies or something like that. That's not real.
Yeah.
Right? Yet I find it fascinating that we have that concept now, but in the old days they would burn women who knew about herbs or child rearing or knew how to cook really well and called them witches.
Yeah.
In other words, witches, right, in the time when they were being persecuted, were known as people who talked to rocks and talked to trees and knew how to create what we now know as herbal medicine, right, that everyone is going back to, because we've found that the Western world isn't the only way.
Yeah.
But yet then we think of witches and we have all these TVs with vampires and witches. Like we've made them Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then people think that spirituality is this like Hollywood thing, and there's such fear of it.
Yeah.
Right? Of like they're hiding in our midst, right? Well, all of a sudden you're going to grow 5 eyes or something, or I don't know, maybe you do. But so I just kind of want to like really just stay curious and playful, because it comes back to, what I was saying is like, what is reality? And let's talk about dreaming or creation as a state of beingness, right? Society creates a reality or a state of beingness and defines things, and that society has changed.
Yeah.
Right? So how are we being, one could say, indigenous, dreamers in a modern society that makes things so unattainable?
Yeah.
So not real.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's kind of genius to make it so not real that that you don't
like
take the
out of this world.
Yeah, out of this world.
But yet the magic is in this world, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. What really I honed in on there with what you were saying was spirituality being outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to start getting a bit emotional here.
Oh, we love emotions on this podcast. At least I won't be the only one crying.
We've been taught to think that spirit or God or essence is outside of you, and it
or your soul,
or your soul, yes, is outside of you and not of you, and not part of the land, and not part of all the other beings or all the other human beings as well. And that's, I feel like, part of that disconnection. And a lot of the work that we've been doing together is about coming back into cohesiveness and remembering that connection, because that was what was powerful, and that's what everybody was afraid of. And when I think of the witches that were burned, they were just people that were in deep relationship with the land, with their medicines, with the plants, with the trees, with the waterways, the stars and the sky, the sun. And I get really emotional about it because, and this is what's happened to Indigenous people as well, because they have such deep relationship with their land, that this is taken from them in a way, or it's trying to be taken away. And I get really sad about that.
Yeah.
And so when you've lived in a way that you have felt afraid your whole life, and being told that, going out into the forest is dangerous, and, well, yeah, it can be.
Especially here in Australia.
Yeah, I almost stepped on a snake the other day. But, in that fear, we miss the beauty that we could experience also. And that is having relationship with the land.
Now, you've been on quite a journey this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Not just personal, but like the ceremonies that have been happening and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and being
Yeah.
involved, being able to see people's outsiders kind of perspective, having people who know you come to them and having their experience. Like we've had we're on our fifth ceremony, sixth
Yeah.
ceremony
It's
today
been
or
like a
something.
marathon, hasn't it? Oh.
And in your perspective, what has that journey been, right? We had an opening ceremony with, she participated telling, we had stories of First Nation people or creation stories. Like, what was that like,
Oh gosh.
Why was it so pivotal to kind of like launch a week of ceremonies?
That was a big, big ceremony.
Yeah.
And all I can hear you saying is that ceremony doesn't start at the ceremony itself. It starts way before that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, without even being aware of it, I was already in ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, I was aware because every day is a ceremony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oh gosh. So, for that opening ceremony, I shared the creation story of my people. And when you had asked me to share the creation story of the Slavic people, I was like, I don't even know what our creation story is. Like, what is the creation story of the Slavic people, and in particular, Serbian people, of which I come from? And I had to go through a massive process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an ongoing process because there is so much, there are so many different stories, creation stories. And I would say that it was months and months and months of
Hard work.
hard work, very, very hard work. Lots of crying, lots of grief, lots of anger. But what was really sweet was being able to be a representative for my people and being a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I sang a song that comes from the region of where my father was born, and the song is about the land and how other people say that it's small, but the land is so big and so vast, and that the land has a voice and the land speaks. So that was like the first ceremony. That's like 5 days or something to itself.
It was only 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think it was only 90 minutes, but yeah.
And then from there, things just sort of unfolded. And I want to say unfurled.
Yeah, with fern.
So with the fern medicine. And, sometimes you think you've got it, but then you got to think again, and you don't really have anything. You don't know anything. And in that, more stories come, more connection comes, deeper relationship comes.
What have these Indigenous circles that you've been in study and these ceremonies given back to you?
So much.
Yeah.
So much. It's really tricky to find the words.
Well, let's talk about the feeling of it, right? Because I feel that, the huge difference between modern society and kind of the spirituality out there is a very intellectual right? Philosophical kind of way, right? Where also even mindfulness is really about that. The mind is still dominating.
Yeah.
Indigenous circles aren't like that, right?
Yeah.
There's something of the body, in the body, because your land
Yeah.
is your body.
Yeah.
So how do these ceremonies, has it been being in these Indigenous circles for, what is it, a year, two? I don't know. It probably feels like a lifetime to you.
Yeah, probably many lifetimes.
How has that helped you land into your beingness, right? Your body, your mind, your essence. How are you feeling versus before?
More sovereign, I would say.
It's powerful.
More sovereign, more me. There's a richness and a depth that I haven't been able to access in other circles. In the Indigenous circles that I've sat in with you, it's not a superficial layer. It goes really, really deep. And, even though I was born here and not on the land that my people come from, it's helped me to build a connection with the land here, but also with the land of where my ancestors come from, which I didn't realize was affecting me so much in my life. Like there was a missing piece and there was so much grief there. And feeling like I didn't belong here. So my connection with the land, with my body, with the land of my ancestors has really grown, and I feel, and I keep seeing an image of like a bridge and connecting back to who I really am and to the being that I am.
Well, that's good. In this beingness, this journey of becoming, one might say, right? Tell us about how cacao has really changed your life. And you sit primarily, singularly, with cacao from Cuatro Manos Cinco Volcanes from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that and how that cacao is different than others and how your journey has been. And we've had cacao how many times? How many days in a row? Nonstop,
usually I have cacao every day.
Yeah.
But this is something else. So cacao has been an incredible support. And to do this kind of work of really trying to get to know yourself and I guess work of decolonization as well. You need a support. You need sustenance. And cacao has really provided that for me. She's the energy of cacao. She's just so potent, and she reflects back at us the things that sometimes we don't really want to see of ourselves.
Mm.
And she does it in a way that is so oftentimes loving and compassionate. She does give me a kick up the butt sometimes too. And now, as I journey, I can't imagine journeying without her. She's such an integral part of the work that I do. And she will be for a long time to come, an integral part of the work that I do in being a part of the breach.
Beautiful. Now, before we tell people all the magical other things, how they can join you in ceremony, let's talk about, for the first time, we introduced something here in Australia, atole. How was that for you, having that really ancient drink of corn and cacao, that cornmeal and cacao?
That was incredible. Incredible. Corn is such a big part of my people's culture. And, you know, that was something that was coming up a lot pre-ceremony, especially when we were studying sacred relationships. And that ceremony, a lot of things came up in relation to my ancestors and in particular, some stories had come up around my grandmother who has passed. And it's interesting, you know, I guess just looking at cacao and corn and the way that they are and the similarities. They both provide sustenance, but also just physically their similarities were something that has really stood out to me. Atole has really, and I'm really excited to explore this relationship a lot deeper because that was my first time having atole. But what it really had brought out in me was the connection with my ancestry and the connection with others who had stories about corn as well that were similar to mine.
Corn literally saving your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saving my grandmother's life.
Yeah.
Saving a lot of people's life because they just grew corn.
Yeah.
And that's what they lived off.
Yeah.
And so to be able to be here and to be able to feed and nourish myself with corn, cacao, it's such a gift. Such a gift and a blessing to be able to do that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, my friend, my dreamer friend, my sound friend. You do a lot of sound journeys as well. And you have a few coming up, a few beautiful ceremonies coming up. So let us, why don't you tell us a little bit about it, where they're going to be, and so people can, and how they can follow you.
Yeah.
And,
So I have a 3-week series coming up, which is Dream Cave.
oh, wow. 3 weeks of dreaming in the cave. I like it.
So it's yoga nidra and cacao, and that will be online by Zoom. I'll have some little
Packets.
I couldn't find the words. I could see it in my mind's eye, but yeah, I have some packages with cacao, and some other beautiful goodies there that will help support your journey through the dream world. So that will be a 3-week series starting June the 18th.
June 18th. Okay, June 18th.
And
anyone local where in Australia can join?
in Australia can join, and you can also contact me if you're overseas. But yeah, in terms of shipping, I'm not sure if
Yeah, exactly.
it'll get there in time, but we could potentially figure something out. Yeah, so we've got that. I've also got a retreat that is coming up with Ash Bell. We're doing a sound and cacao retreat in Victoria in Australia.
It's a very posh retreat.
It's very luxe.
It's very luxe.
And that is...
Don't expect that if you come to the farm in Hawaii.
That is from the 7th of July. But yeah, it'll be cacao and sound and an exploration.
And it's called Spirit Quest?
Spirit Quest.
Oh,
Yeah.
great name.
Thanks, Ash Bell.
There you go. Good Ash Bell. And if they want more info or how to follow you, you also do one-on-ones, right?
Yeah, I do. So I provide nurturing sessions, and all the information is on my website, vesnababladelis.com.
We'll put it on the show notes so that people know how to
spell it.
how to spell it. And your Instagram handle, what is it?
Vesnavav.
Vesna Vav. There you go. Just follow at Vesna Vav for amazing, inspirational, beautiful. Your posts and your photography that you have on there is beautiful. You are an artist in your own right, so it's beautiful to see what you are creating in the world. And I recommend Vesna. I do not recommend many people, and I highly recommend Vesna. And so get into contact and get into your dreamscape and learn how to build that relationship. Vesna, anything else you'd like to leave us with?
No, I think that's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing your journey. And so let us thank Circle as we thank the East, the South, the West, and the North for holding us here in our curiosity, our courage, and our play as we dreamed the potential of an embodied life. What is it like to truly live an embodied life in a state of beingness where this journey is from this kind of intellectualized, colonized spirituality of mindfulness and really getting back into your land, your body. Really allowing your breath, your essence, your beingness to be a part of your life and not to have this scattered, deconstructed, everything's in a square kind of a life, but truly to be uniquely and diversely you. Shide. Thanks for everyone listening. And if you'd like to continue to support us and these podcasts, please consider becoming a Patreon. Please follow us on our pages. We have some great trainings coming up. Angel Deer and I are launching a whole series soon, so stay tuned for that. And stay tuned for new opportunities to sit with cacao, and cacao as well, and to sit under the jaguar tree. Thank you so much for your support. To all my teachers, those who have given me permission to share all of these teachings and all my people and all my relationships that hold all of this, may you have a blessed day. Shade. Once again, it is with deepest gratitude that I bow to you for joining me on this podcast, this episode, this circle, this plática, this meditation, this remembering. I hope that you have stayed curious. I hope to see you in the circle again next week. So make sure that you like or follow. Until then, may you be blessed with abundance of peace and radical self-love.